Welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about a civil war.
Which Civil War, you ask?
Not the American Civil War, not the Finnish Civil War, not even the Greek Civil War.
Is it World War II?
Oh my gosh, World War II is not the answer to every single question involving history, and it wasn't even a civil war.
We're talking about the English Civil War.
But before you can understand that, you have to understand something called divine right, which was a king or queen's belief that they were in their place of power by God, and therefore no one had the authority to question them. One more time, just to make sure you understand. They believed that God had put them where they were, and no one could tell them what to do.
Yeah, doesn't sound very divine to me.
Joke number one.
So, into the story.
Problems started in the early 1600s, when Queen Elizabeth, the last Tudor of the Tudor dynasty, died, leaving the English throne to her cousin, King James VI, soon to be the first of England. Remember what I told you about divine right? Well, King James I was a huge divine right supporter. In fact, he never called a meeting of Parliament. Think of Parliament like the people's representation at this time in England.
It then came to a head when the new king, King Charles I, tried to limit Parliament and also tried to bring Catholicism back to England. Remember, England is a Protestant country now, so the last thing citizens want is Catholicism in their country.
So, the English Civil War finally broke out. Of course, for it to be a war, you have to have at least two sides.
You had the Royalists, otherwise known as the Cavaliers, who were basically supporters of the monarchy. And you had the Parliamentarians, who were against the monarchy. They were also known as the Roundheads. I'm sure you can see why.
On the side of the Roundheads, you had Parliament's New Model Army, which was composed of extreme Puritans and most largely led by Oliver Cromwell.
Just so you know what Oliver Cromwell looks like, here's a picture of him.
And they won. Oliver Cromwell led the New Model Army to victory. Charles I lost and was beheaded. Now, England was a republic. Judging by the fact that I used quotation marks, probably suggests that that wasn't really what it was. Oliver Cromwell, despite fighting on the side of the Roundheads, destroyed Parliament and ruled England as if he himself were a monarch. He then divided the country into 11 regions, each of which was ruled by a major general. Plus, since Oliver Cromwell was a Puritan, that meant he outlawed, that's right, legally banned anything of jovial relatability. That means no holidays, no sports, nothing that you would find fun. Yeah, despite his name, his leadership wasn't really that well. I've really got to stop doing that. The point is, after he died, people didn't really feel like repeating what had happened even after a bloody civil war. So they did the most typical thing that's ever done in history. They repeated history! That's right, they brought back the monarchy. The eldest son of King Charles I, King Charles II, became king. As if that isn't a broken record. And what do you think the Catholic King Charles II does? He issues the Declaration of Indulgences, which suspended the laws that Parliament had passed against Catholics and Puritans. Exactly what the first king was doing, exactly what the people didn't like. Seriously, does anyone else see a pattern here? Because after King Charles II, King James II, even the names are similar. Even though King Charles II's Declaration of Indulgences had failed, King James II tried to pass one of his own. And while it was more successful, that was pretty much the last straw for the English citizens.
So, William of Orange and his wife Mary, who were rulers of the Netherlands, were invited by some English noblemen to invade England. Yes, the people who invited them to invade their own country. That's how out of hand this has got.
Just to clarify, the Civil War has ended. What happens next is known as the Glorious Revolution, because there was no bloodshed. William and his wife invade England, and James II, his wife, and infant son flee to France. The new king and queen then take the throne and accept the new English Bill of Rights. Okay, it's finally over. This new Bill of Rights provided a freely elected parliament. It gave Parliament the right to make laws and levy taxes. It meant that the king couldn't raise an army without Parliament's consent. It also meant that the English citizens had the right to keep arms, petition, have a jury trial, and not be subject to excessive bail. And these are just the highlights. There were plenty of other things.
Oh, finally over. Is it hot in here?
Well, there you have it. The English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution. Can't wait to see you next time. Goodbye.